The series begins in Yemen, where a camel herder takes a break with his flock in the midst of crossing the Arabian desert. Looking up, he spots something plummeting from the sky and crashing into the sand not far from him. Initially intrigued, his curiosity quickly turns to alarm as the mysterious object hurtles towards him at a rapid pace. Sensing danger, the camels scatter, fleeing from the approaching threat. However, the herder remains rooted to the spot, captivated by the sight of the semi-transparent object coming to a stop before him. As it begins to materialize into a solid form, he reaches out and grazes his fingers on the surface of the shiny black rock adorned with tiny suction cups. However, his curiosity is met with a piercing sound before he is forcefully propelled backward across the desert landscape. Meanwhile, in the suburban tranquility of Long Island, New York, Anisha Malik commences her day with a morning workout session before attending to the daily routines of her two children, Luke and Sarah. After preparing lunch for them, she rouses her husband, Ahmed, who is scheduled to work in the city until late that evening. Little do they know, unexpected events are about to unfold, altering the course of their day. Later that same day, while the kids are in band class playing music, something strange happens. All of the kids except Luke suddenly start bleeding from their noses. Anisha gets a call from the school and rushes there. When she arrives, she finds out that every kid had a nosebleed except for Luke and Sarah. They're all okay otherwise, but Anisha decides to take them to the hospital just to be safe. During the drive, she tries to call her husband, but he doesn't answer. At the hospital, the doctor checks Sarah and says she's fine. Then we find out something surprising about Anisha. It is revealed that she used to be a medical student at Harvard but gave it up to raise her family. Meanwhile, the doctor can't explain why Luke didn't get a nosebleed like the other kids. Later that night, while Anisha and her kids are watching TV, the lights start flickering on and off unexpectedly. It's weird, but they shrug it off. Then Luke checks his iPad and realizes something's wrong. He discovers that their dad's not where he's supposed to be. His GPS location shows him to be somewhere else and not at work. Anisha gets worried and tries calling him again, but it goes straight to voicemail. Worried, she decides to take the kids out, saying they need to run an errand. They hop in the car, and Anisha follows the GPS to where her husband's phone is. When they arrive at a strange house, Anisha peeks through the window and sees her husband with another woman. It's a painful moment, made worse by the fact that Ahmed's phone was still giving away his location. It's like he wanted to get caught. After the heartbreaking revelation at the stranger's house, Anisha gathers her emotions and quietly returns to the car. She fights back tears as she drives her family home. Once the children are tucked into bed and the house falls silent, Anisha immerses herself in a bit of online detective work. With a heavy heart, she uncovers the painful truth and discovers that her husband's mistress is none other than an Instagram cook and influencer. Later that same night, Ahmed arrives home to find a warm meal awaiting him, prepared by Anisha. However, the atmosphere quickly turns tense as she reveals the source of the recipe and talks about the same woman he betrayed her with. Despite her composed demeanor, Anisha confronts Ahmed with the raw honesty of her feelings. She reminds him of the sacrifices she's made for their family and the efforts she's invested in their marriage. With a mix of anger and hurt, she demands an explanation for his infidelity. However, Ahmed's response, "She's not you," leaves Anisha to grapple with the betrayal of trust. At that moment, Ahmed's carelessness about their relationship is painfully evident, which is a stark contrast to Anisha's unwavering loyalty and devotion. However, before Ahmed can offer any excuses, the house is jolted by violent shaking, accompanied by flickering lights. Due to this, the panicked cries of their children pierce the air, jolting the estranged couple into action. Putting aside their grievances, they instinctively rush to ensure their children's safety. Ahmed hurries to check on Luke while Anisha swiftly locates Sarah and enfolds her in a protective embrace. Peering out the window, Anisha's gaze falls upon the neighboring house, which is now reduced to rubble. Meanwhile, the scene shifts and halfway across the world in Tokyo, Japan, a woman named Hinata wakes up beside her lover who's already in the shower. However, instead of waiting for him to get out of the shower, she leaves a note of goodbye, sticking it with a glow-in-the-dark star, before heading off to work. Hinata's destination is revealed to be the International Space Station, where she's embarking on a mission to study the effects of long-term space travel. Amidst the preparations, snippets of conversation between mission control technicians Mitsuki and Kaido hint at Hinata's relationship with a famous actor, adding another layer of intrigue to her story. As Mitsuki is summoned to conduct communication tests with Hinata, their interaction reveals a palpable chemistry, hinting at a deeper connection between them. In the control room, Mitsuki struggles to mask her sorrow amidst the jubilant celebrations following the successful launch. Later that evening, she returns to the same apartment where we previously saw Hinata. As Mitsuki reads the farewell note and tenderly touches the glow-in-the-dark star left behind by her lover, the truth of their relationship is poignantly confirmed. Meanwhile, aboard the spacecraft, Hinata finds solace in a picture uploaded by Mitsuki onto her computer. However, their moment of connection is abruptly interrupted as one of the other astronauts notices something amiss outside. Within moments, the tranquility of space is shattered as the ship is violently torn open. This devastating event presumably claims the lives of everyone on board. The scene shifts to Idabel, Oklahoma, where we see Sheriff Tyson as he prepares for his final shift before retirement. Upon arriving at the station, his partner, Grady, briefs him on a call regarding a stolen truck. Together, they head to the victim's farm, where the owner recounts how the same two individuals, known meth users, have stolen his mother's truck multiple times. Although lacking concrete evidence, the farmer has begun his own investigation. According to this investigation, none of the men have shown up to work after the robbery. However, Sheriff Tyson's attention is diverted by an unusual sight as a flock of birds flying in an unusual pattern above a section of disturbed crops. Climbing to a higher vantage point, they discover a classic crop circle below. As they inspect closer, they stumble upon a scorched crater at its center. To their surprise, the stolen truck is found nearby, wrecked but with a wallet full of cash untouched on the floorboard. Before they can unravel the mystery, a swarm of locusts descends upon them, forcing the officers to seek refuge beneath the vehicle. The mysterious events surrounding the stolen truck lead Sheriff Tyson to pursue an unconventional lead, the meth head's drug dealer, who also has ties to a white supremacist group. After employing some forceful tactics to extract information, they track down one of the suspect's girlfriends at the strip club where she works. The girlfriend reveals that the two men had plans to flee to Mexico to evade mounting debts, but she suspects that one of them left without her. Despite this revelation, Sheriff Tyson remains convinced that there's more to the story. During the journey back to the station, Grady expresses concern for Tyson's well-being. In response, the sheriff delves into a disjointed narrative recounting a tragic incident from his past where he rescued a girl from captivity only for her to perish in a car accident shortly before he was to be honored by the governor. This recollection triggers a crisis of faith in Tyson, causing him to question the significance of his entire career in law enforcement despite being revered and respected within the community. It's a stark contrast to his steadfast belief that he was chosen by a higher power to serve as a guardian of justice. Despite his earlier doubts, Sheriff Tyson becomes convinced that the peculiar case involving the missing meth heads and the enigmatic crop circle is a sign from a higher power, suggesting that it may hold the key to validating his life's work. That evening, during his retirement ceremony, Tyson attempts to deliver a speech but abruptly halts midway. Ignoring the puzzled looks of his colleagues, he abruptly departs and returns to the site of the crop circle. There, he observes something stirring beneath the earth within the crater. Suddenly, a mysterious entity emerges and strikes him in the neck, taking his life. As the unsettling events unfold, the entity takes on a semi-transparent form before vanishing into the night, leaving behind unanswered questions and a community in shock. The Malik family finds themselves huddled together in their Long Island home, witnessing the chaos unfolding outside as debris rains down upon the street. Concerned for their safety, Ahmed decides they should seek refuge in the basement despite Anisha's reservations about the cramped quarters. However, tensions rise as the couple debates their next move until Ahmed resolves to venture outside in search of answers. As they navigate the disarrayed street, they notice an odd phenomenon. It is revealed that every house seems to have been struck by debris except theirs. Could their son, Sam, hold the key to this mysterious occurrence? Their speculation is interrupted by Sam's agonized screams from inside the house. Rushing back to his side, Ahmed and Anisha find Sam in distress, clutching his head and pleading for the torment to cease. In a sudden and inexplicable turn of events, Sam's anguish subsides and the lights flicker back on. It becomes apparent that Sam has been communicating telepathically with an unseen entity, and its presence catalyzes the strange events unfolding around them. After this, Anisha overhears Ahmed talking to his mistress in secret. This results as a final nail in the coffin, and Anisha decides to leave, collecting up her things and packing her bags. Amidst the chaos of their crumbling relationship, Ahmed drops another bombshell. He had been planning to leave Anisha that very week. Though initially taken aback, Anisha maintains her composure and assumes control of the situation, determined to take charge of her own destiny. With the children waiting in the back of the car, she accepts the responsibility of driving them away. Meanwhile, across the pond in London, England, the day begins for a group of schoolchildren, including Casper Morrow. Plagued by social anxiety and targeted by bullies, Casper finds solace in his budding feelings for fellow student Jamila. Despite the challenges he faces, excitement mounts as the students prepare for a school trip, eagerly boarding the bus for the day's adventures ahead. As the school bus rattles along the road, electronics begin to malfunction, setting an ominous tone for the journey ahead. A pothole jolts the bus, causing Casper's sketchbook to tumble to the floor, where it's retrieved by Jamila. Seizing the opportunity to bond, they share an earphone each and listen to old music reminiscent of Green Day. As the music plays, Casper notices an unusual sight: sheep gathering together in an unnatural manner. Before they can comprehend the strangeness of the scene, debris rains down from the sky, causing chaos as the bus careens off the road and plunges down a steep cliff. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Yamato receives devastating news regarding the Hoshi 12 mission. Rushing to JAXA, she learns that the International Space Station ISS has gone offline, plunging the global space community into crisis. Both the Russians and NASA are grappling with similar widespread issues. Despite initial setbacks, the Japanese eventually manage to restore the video feed from the Hoshi 12, revealing the torn hull of the spacecraft. As news of the disaster spreads across the nation, Yamato sinks into a profound state of despair. Seeking solace in alcohol and casual encounters, she begins to experience unsettling visions, signaling the onset of an unsettling journey into the unknown. The scene shifts to the U.S. combat outpost located in the Kandahar province of Afghanistan. There we see a man named Trevant Ward. He's dealing with problems at home and leading his group of soldiers. As the squad ventures into a small village, they are met with a warm reception from the local villagers. With the assistance of a translator, they learn of an attack near a school. Upon arrival at the scene, they discover the aftermath: a collapsed roof and a lone student exhibiting strange behavior, drawing circles on a table with a bloody nose. Driven by the children's pointed gestures, Trevant and his team navigate through a dust cloud on the horizon, leading them to a mysterious tripod structure looming ominously before them. Despite unleashing a barrage of bullets, their efforts prove futile as the object remains impervious. In a harrowing turn of events, a powerful pulse emanating from the tripod incapacitates the squad, leaving them reeling in its wake. The episode begins with Trev waking up alone in the desert, covered in sand and hurt. He searches for his squad's vehicle and tries to call for help, but can't get through. With no other options, he covers a bad wound with a bandage and sets off on foot to find help. After walking for hours, Trev gets very thirsty and collapses. He has a vision of his wife leaving him before blacking out. When he wakes up later, he finds a man named Kuchi offering him water. Trev is cautious but accepts the help. Despite the language barrier, Kuchi manages to communicate to Trev that he saw his missing squad members nearby. It's unclear if he offers to lead Trev there, but he does dress and treat his wound, helping him recover. As the sun sets, the two men share stories in their respective languages about lost loved ones. Kuchi shares about his daughter Oranuz, named after Orion, who became ill one winter and passed away the following spring. Trev talks about his estranged wife, who enjoyed stargazing. Even though they can't understand each other's words, they connect over their shared sorrow, grateful to have someone to share it with. Meanwhile, in New York, Anisha races through traffic in an attempt to get her family out of the city. However, their escape is halted when the entire city suddenly loses power, plunging everything into darkness. The following day, Anisha takes her family to a busy gas station. While Ahmed tries to recharge their Tesla, she takes the children inside for bathroom breaks and snacks. As they watch a TV report on the global devastation unfolding, Anisha spots Ahmed being confronted by racist individuals attempting to steal their car. Nearby, she notices a set of keys belonging to another family. After weighing her options, Anisha decides to take action. She grabs the keys and tells Ahmed to let the men take their Tesla. They quickly transfer their belongings to the stolen minivan and drive off just before the rightful owners arrive. Despite feeling shaken, Luke and Sarah understand that their mother acted to keep them safe. That evening, Anisha secures a hotel room for her family, but it only has one bed. As they settle in, they watch a news report that starts glitching, with something in the static seeming to communicate with them. Before anything significant happens, Anisha changes the channel to cartoons. Later that night, as the broken family tries to find some rest, tensions simmer up. Ahmed suggests that Anisha went too far in their rushed escape from the city, saying she acted without thinking. Anisha, on the other hand, tells Ahmed off for trying to leave them for their neighbor. Ahmed gets defensive, feeling sorry for himself as he complains about feeling unloved and misunderstood. He tries to explain his affair, saying he deserves love. But Anisha doesn't give in, saying she's always been loyal. Feeling hurt and frustrated by Anisha's words, Ahmed storms out of the room, trying to call his mistress. When he can't reach her, he comes back to the hotel room, feeling defeated, and lies on the floor, realizing how much he messed up. Meanwhile, despite the scary fall of their bus into the ravine, everyone survives. But Mr. Edwards gets badly hurt with a long metal bar stuck in his arm, leaving him shocked and upset. Seeing him hurt, Jamila tries to tend to her wound. Jamila may not be a nurse, but her mom is, which somehow gives her the ability to assess Mr. Edwards' injuries and stabilize him. Casper tries to help, but Monty, blaming Casper for the accident, roughs him up. However, Casper's friends step in and prevent a fight by offering snacks to Monty and his friend. After this, one of Casper's friends volunteers to climb out of the ravine for help, but Monty won't allow anyone to leave. As the kids discuss their options, Casper realizes he's running low on his anti-seizure pills. That evening, as the kids construct shelters, Monty unexpectedly apologizes to Casper for his past actions. However, he soon resumes mocking Casper's mother, who is in a wheelchair. Despite this, they connect over their fathers leaving them. Monty shares that his dad left with his secretary, leaving deep wounds. Meanwhile, Casper admits his father hurt his mother before deserting them and he was too scared to intervene. Monty seems genuinely sympathetic before cruelly revealing that he was pretending and his family is actually fine. He also threatens to use Casper's personal story against him in the future. This leaves Casper feeling shocked at Monty's cruel behavior. Later that night, as the other students challenge Monty's leadership, he insists on a vote. Falling one vote short, Monty resorts to blackmailing Casper into siding with him to secure the majority. After everyone else drifts off to sleep, Casper checks on Mr. Edwards, who babbles incoherently about metal falling from the sky. Casper then takes his second-to-last anti-seizure pill, shares a sweet moment with Jamila, and starts drawing her as she falls asleep. Big hint, Casper completely misses it. Given everything he's been through that day, though, he deserves some understanding. Meanwhile, Monty goes outside and stomps out the group's signal fire, determined to retain his status as the boy king of the ravine. Meanwhile, the scene shifts and we see Mitsuki. After taking some time to grieve in solitude, Mitsuki receives a text from her friend Kaido at the control center, prompting her to gather her strength and return to work. Upon arrival, she finds government officials confiscating data and records to investigate the shuttle incident. When Mitsuki expresses her determination to uncover the truth and asserts her unique qualifications for the task, the director continues to blame her for the tragedy. Refusing to yield, Mitsuki takes decisive action by removing the director's badge and sprinting to the communications room. Kaido follows closely behind, just ahead of security guards. Inside, she locks the door and resets the code, buying herself time to delve into the files and uncover the truth behind her lover's death. After decrypting the video files and confronting painful images of Hinata's final moments, Mitsuki discovers that her lover's demise was the result of a sudden and catastrophic event, contrary to the director's accusations. Moments before security breaches the room, she manages to extract an audio file of Hinata uttering a single word, Weijo, a word Luke also heard in his mind previously. In the ravine, Jamila and Casper wake up to discover that Mr. Edwards passed away during the night. His death heightens the fear among the traumatized children except for Monty, who insists they stay put instead of attempting to climb out. When a kid tries to challenge him, Monty's goon pelts rocks at his head until he gives in. Frustrated by Monty's control, Casper revokes his previous vote for Monty to lead the group. In retaliation, Monty exposes Casper's secret about his father's actions, causing Casper deep humiliation. Despite this, Casper resolves to climb out of the ravine alone, determined to seek help or face the consequences. As Casper nears the top, Monty unexpectedly decides that the rest of them should also attempt to climb out, which seems unusual from his previous decision. As his classmates start climbing below him, Casper reaches the top and is struck by the sight of devastation around him. Amid the wrecked roads, they discover fragments of a Russian satellite that landed in front of their bus, proving Casper wasn't responsible for Mr. Edwards driving into the ravine. While examining the debris, Jamila approaches and hands Casper his sketchbook. He notices the Russian writing on the satellite wreckage and recalls a drawing he made with the same lettering. The kids decide to head home and start walking down the road, but Monty tries to stop them. Casper finally stands up to him, pointing out that Monty has no power over them now that he's already done his worst. When Monty tries to push Casper down, Casper remains unfazed. He explains that having 3 older brothers has prepared him to handle any physical threat from the bully. Sensing the change in the group's dynamics, the other kids start to confront Monty too. Despite his attempts to appear unaffected, Monty can feel his control slipping away, especially when Jamila suggests they all go home and leave him behind. As one of the kids declares that the king is dead, Monty is forced to follow the group when even his most loyal follower joins them. The scene shifts and we see Anisha, who wakes up to find her husband lying on the floor, looking at his phone. She pretends to be asleep to listen as he starts to cry. Later, the kids discuss the tension between their parents. They seem worried about their parents fighting all the time. During this, Sarah notices a strange black rock in Luke's bag, but he refuses to say where he found it and warns her not to touch it. Their family issues are pushed aside when the military arrives, ordering everyone to evacuate. Ahmed decides to ask one of the soldiers for directions. Seeing Ahmed busy, Anisha finds her chance to check his phone. She's shocked and furious to discover that Ahmed's mistress is pregnant with his child. As they resume their journey, Anisha sits in stunned silence before sarcastically suggesting baby names for Ahmed and his mistress. Tensions rise further when Luke demands a bathroom break. After they pull over, Luke runs off to relieve himself while Anisha confronts Ahmed for his actions. However, their argument is interrupted when Sarah points out that Luke has disappeared. Ahmed holds Sarah tightly in his arms as he and Anisha search tirelessly for their son late into the night. Just when they feel their hope slipping away, they stumble upon a humble house nestled amidst the darkness, owned by an elderly couple named Patrick and Kelly. Relief floods over them as they find Luke safe and sound, nestled in the warmth and safety of the couple's home. It seems he has sprinted ahead into the woods, driven by a mix of fear and uncertainty. Patrick and Kelly welcome them with open arms, offering not only shelter but also solace in the midst of their turmoil. As they sit together by the crackling fire, Luke pours out his heart. He confesses that in his young mind, running away seems like the only way to escape the turmoil and uncertainty that plague their family. Anisha listens intently as her heart breaks for her son's pain. With a reassuring smile, she promises him that no matter what challenges lie ahead, they will face them together as a family. Meanwhile, after 2 days of searching, Kuchi excitedly points out what he believes to be their quarry, a group of lost goats. After hearing this, Trev becomes all types of angry and is about to give up when his locator starts beeping. He ditches Kuchi and tracks the signal to the basement of a barely staffed medical facility. After exploring for a bit, he heads down into the basement and discovers a doctor secretly taking care of his badly injured friend Chavez. The soldier doesn't remember how he got there, but definitely remembers what he saw right before they were all blown away. Chavez also implies that he knows about Trev's strained relationship with his wife and tells him to get home to her. As Trev prepares to leave with Chavez, the doctor confronts him, casting blame on the U.S. military for the chaos they've brought. However, before he can defend his position, the sound of gunfire erupts from upstairs, signaling the arrival of Taliban fighters who have trailed him to the facility. In a split-second decision, Trev takes charge, leading the doctor back through the labyrinthine corridors to safety. As the enemy forces close in, he springs into action, engaging in a fierce firefight to protect their retreat. With precise aim, he neutralizes 2 attackers before strategically toppling shelves to impede the advance of a third. Yet, the situation takes an unexpected turn when a diminutive alien emerges from the shadows, swiftly dispatching their remaining assailant. In the chaos, Trev wastes no time, swiftly releasing Chavez from captivity and shouldering him to safety. After this, Trev unhooks Chavez, carries him out of the building, and heads for a nearby truck, shooting down Taliban fighters along the way. He also totally ditches the doctor and makes this hard decision in order to save himself and his friend. After getting Chavez inside the vehicle, however, he discovers that his friend has already died. Distraught and enraged, he takes his anger out on the approaching Taliban forces before driving away. Meanwhile, we see Mitsuki, who faces interrogation from the space program director, Akira, and government agents. The agents refuse to accept that something tore apart Hinata's shuttle despite the clear evidence in the video file. They dismiss the possibility, arguing that any object capable of such destruction would have been detected by their satellites beforehand. Akira suggests the absurd notion of space junk, a theory supported by Kaido, in a bid to absolve himself of blame. After failing to reach a solid conclusion, they let Mitsuki go. Despite being spared arrest, Mitsuki is banned from returning to the facility. As she exits, Kaido attempts to apologize, but Mitsuki rebukes him, highlighting the global wave of terrorist attacks as reason enough to consider the deliberate targeting of Hinata's shuttle. Now, convinced that the voice-uttering Weijo belonged to Hinata, Mitsuki is determined to unravel its meaning, sensing it may hold crucial significance. Though uncertain of its implications, she remains resolute in her quest for answers. The next day, Mitsuki pays a visit to Hinata's father, Akiro. After meeting with him, she discovers that her father hadn't communicated with his daughter in 3 years due to their disagreements over her life choices. Awkwardly navigating the conversation, Mitsuki admits her limited familiarity with Hinata before requesting to use the bathroom. Instead, she sneaks into Hinata's room, immersing herself in her late lover's belongings. Lying on Hinata's bed, she gazes at a solitary glow-in-the-dark star on the ceiling, which reminds her of the one she carried in her purse. Ikuro eventually discovers Mitsuki's presence in Hinata's room. After finding her, he reveals his own involvement with the Japanese space program and also deduces Mitsuki's connection to Hinata. Mitsuki confronts Akiro for his inability to accept Hinata for who she is. In response, Akiro admits their estrangement wasn't due to Hinata's sexual orientation, but rather his disappointment in her concealment of her true self from the world. He also explains that he could not bear her relationships with men just to show the world, including the mentioned movie star from the beginning. After hearing him out, Mitsuki is left stunned by Akiro's unexpected revelation, finding solace in his acceptance of Hinata's true self. Despite the initial disbelief, it's a heartwarming moment for Mitsuki. Encouraged by this newfound connection, Mitsuki shares details about Hinata's final transmission with Akiro. Eager to uncover any hidden messages, Akiro listens intently to the recording. After listening through once, he rewinds it and cranks up the volume. More strange noises come through this time, causing the sand in a nearby Zen garden to move strangely. Akiro asks if the Japanese space program might have a bigger sound system so they can see what is really on the recording. Trev arrives at the deserted base, sending shivers down his spine at the eerie sight. He gets out of the vehicle and decides to explore the area. Despite the unsettling emptiness, he gathers essentials like water and ammunition, steeling himself for whatever may lie ahead. With determination, he heads to the communications center, hoping to reach fellow U.S. forces for answers. His attempts to make contact yield no response, intensifying his sense of isolation and uncertainty. Searching for clues, Trev stumbles upon a discarded communication, revealing the base's evacuation due to an unknown hostile contact. Overwhelmed by the grim reality, he solemnly honors Chavez's memory, promising to fulfill his friend's final wish by reuniting with his wife, Lyra. That evening, Trev manages to reach Lyra over the phone, but their conversation quickly turns tense. She mentions the alarming events unfolding on TV, hinting at a connection to Trev's own ordeal. Worried for her safety, he assures her of his imminent return from a NATO base. However, Lyra's response is unexpected and frosty, revealing the deep wounds in their marriage caused by his past abandonment. Before Trev can defend himself, they're interrupted by a presidential announcement confirming an extraterrestrial attack. After this, determined to reunite with his family, Trev insists on coming home. Meanwhile, as Casper and his classmates journey through the countryside, they stumble upon an abandoned vendor truck brimming with tempting snacks. While the others indulge, Casper and Jamila notice a mysterious substance on the driver's seat. Curiosity piqued, Casper waves his hand over it, revealing unsettling movements in the goop. As the atmosphere grows tense with the discovery of the strange substance, the truck's radio unexpectedly springs to life, breaking the eerie silence. Casper swiftly calls upon Alfie, recognized as the most adept with technology among them, to investigate the transmissions in hopes of establishing contact with the outside world. Alfie diligently navigates through various frequencies, sifting through emergency broadcasts and fragmented messages from unknown sources. Suddenly, he locks onto a harsh frequency, emitting a discordant sound that sends shivers down Casper's spine, nearly triggering a seizure in him. The dissonant signal adds a new layer of mystery to their already perplexing situation, leaving the group on edge. Meanwhile, Monty takes matters into his own hands and forcefully removes the radio, rendering it useless with a swift and powerful blow. While his action sparks outrage among the other kids, Monty remains defiant. Monty counters that it doesn't matter since adults are to blame for whatever caused the chaos and destruction that put them in this situation. In the midst of the tension, one brave soul dares to question Monty's true intentions, prompting him to storm off in frustration. Casper, sensing an opportunity for understanding, follows Monty and gently acknowledges the truth behind his strange behavior. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Monty admits that his home life is actually terrible, that's why he doesn't want to go back to it. Their heart-to-heart is cut short by Jamila, who delivers a sobering reminder that, despite their grievances, their priority should be finding a way home. Returning to the bus, the trio is taken aback to discover that most of their classmates want to stay and eat snacks while they wait for help. After this, Casper and Jamila resolve to carry on with Alfie and another classmate. Surprisingly, Monty also opts to join their group, swayed by Alfie's admission of fear and Casper's supportive stance. As the five of them gather their belongings and prepare to venture forth, Casper's friends make an observation about Jamila's feelings for him. Meanwhile, the scene shifts and we see Mitsuki, who strides confidently into the command center. It seems like her JASA credentials are still working, granting her access despite the tension in the room. Upon entering, she confronts the director, Akira. She insists he listens to something crucial. Despite his initial resistance, Akira relents when Mitsuki plays the Weijo recording, emphasizing how it contradicts the theory of cabin depressurization and suggests the crew's potential survival. Initially skeptical, Akira's stance softens as Mitsuki appeals to his empathy, prompting him to consider the situation from a personal perspective. He reveals that Mitsuki's discovery isn't isolated. The Japanese government has brought in linguists to decipher another mysterious aspect of the recording, a phenomenon Mitsuki describes as language without sound. Confronted with the extraterrestrial origin of the disaster, Mitsuki's suspicions are confirmed by Akira. However, his announcement that the Americans will take over the investigation dashes Mitsuki's hopes of rescuing Hinata and her crew. Despite the setback, Akira offers a glimmer of hope by covertly passing his badge to Mitsuki, allowing her to gather equipment and resources clandestinely. With determination etched on her face, Mitsuki accepts the badge, knowing that she must act swiftly and decisively to save the woman she loves. The scene shifts to Anisha and her family. As the kids wrap up their breakfast, Anisha notices Patrick urging Ahmed to accompany him to the store for supplies. Predictably, Ahmed tries to wiggle out of the responsibility, citing his desire to stay with his children. Seizing the opportunity, Anisha steps in and volunteers to go instead. She reassures Luke that he's in charge while she's away, a statement that carries a weight of responsibility beyond his years. Setting out alone, Anisha arrives at the store only to find it ransacked, shelves emptied of their contents. Choosing to ignore the chaos around her, she scours the aisles in search of anything salvageable. Suddenly, her scavenging is interrupted by the arrival of two soldiers. Inquiring about her presence during curfew hours, they express concern and offer medical assistance. In a quick moment of improvisation, Anisha, drawing on her past experience, vaguely hints at her medical background and tells them that she does not need their help. Upon hearing this, the soldiers inform her that they're heading to the next town, which is in desperate need of medical assistance. Upon learning of the urgent medical needs in the neighboring town, Anisha's sense of duty overrides her initial concerns. With a nod of determination, she accepts the soldiers' proposition, recognizing the opportunity to make a difference amid the chaos. Quickly, she is ushered into an ambulance, joining a team of medical professionals hastily assembled by the military. However, in a spontaneous act of precaution, she adopts a fake name, introducing herself to her newfound colleagues as she braces for the journey ahead. Upon her arrival at the makeshift medical facility, Anisha is filled with a mix of feelings. As she prepares for her duties, she symbolically removes her wedding ring. Lost in thought, she begins her work only to be pulled back to reality when a colleague requests her assistance with a laceration. With keen intuition, Anisha senses that something is awry and investigates further, discovering a minuscule black organism nestled within the wound. Acting swiftly, she extracts the foreign object, earning the respect and admiration of her colleague. This small victory bolsters her confidence, which serves as a much-needed boost amid the chaos unfolding around her. During this, as the news of the presidential announcement reverberates through the facility, Anisha begins to worry about her children. While a part of her yearns to return to her family, she is persuaded by the soldier and the doctor to stay with them, to continue aiding those in need wherever they may be.